The neon sign behind the bar buzzed with a chaotic, electric pink energy, spelling out, "Watch what happens live," in a font that promised nothing but good times and bad decisions. The clubhouse, as Andy Cohen affectionately called his studio, was less a television set and more a claustrophobic shrine to pop culture excess. It was a shoebox of a room, crammed with shelves displaying a decade's worth of celebrity debris, a bedazzled shot ski, a stuffed shark, autographed memoirs of reality stars, and a staggering amount of premium tequila. The air conditioning was blasting, fighting the heat of the studio lights that beat down on the small audience section. 25 people sat on risers, knees practically touching the stage, clutching plastic cups of rosé and waiting for the signal to scream. Andy Cohen sat in his familiar slate blue armchair, his legs crossed, his posture radiating that specific brand of kinetic, high-wire energy that had made him the ringmaster of late-night reality television. He checked his cards, adjusted his tie, and flashed a grin at the camera operator. Tonight was a get, a big one. Usually the clubhouse was the domain of Bravo celebrities, soap opera divas, or the occasional pop star looking to promote a remix. Tonight they had a movie star, a blockbuster titan. In 5, 4, 3, the floor manager counted down, sweeping his hand through the air. The theme music kicked in, loud, brassy, and frantic. The audience erupted on cue, a wall of sound in the tiny space. "Welcome back to the clubhouse," Andy shouted over the noise, leaning into the camera with his signature wide-eyed enthusiasm. "We are live in New York City, and tonight the AC is working, but it is about to get hot in here. He is the king of the seas, the leader of the Dothraki, and the man who single-handedly brought the scrunchie back into style. Please welcome Jason Momoa." The applause went from polite to feral. The sliding door to the left of the stage opened then, and Jason Momoa stepped through. The first thing you noticed was the sheer displacement of air. The clubhouse was designed for real housewives, women in cocktail dresses who took up very little space. Jason Momoa took up all of it. He was wearing a distressed leather vest over a charcoal t-shirt that strained against his chest, and canvas work pants that looked like they had seen actual construction sites. His hair was loose, a dark, waving mane that framed a face built from sharp angles and deep lines. He didn't walk so much as glide, a heavy, predatory grace that made the set look suddenly fragile. He towered over Andy as he shook his hand, a greeting that engulfed the host's palm entirely. "Mahalo, brother," Jason rumbled. His voice was a tectonic plate shifting, deep, gravelly, and vibrating in the chests of the people in the front row. "Jason, welcome," Andy beamed, gesturing to the guest chairs. Sit, make yourself at home." Jason lowered himself into the chair. It creaked audibly. He sat back, spreading his legs wide, his large boots planting firmly on the iconic striped rug. He looked like a lion trying to get comfortable in a dollhouse. "I love the place," Jason said, looking around at the cluttered shelves. He picked up a small, glittery figurine of a dog from the side table, turning it over in his massive fingers. "It's cozy. We like to keep it intimate," Andy said, leaning forward, his eyes sparkling. "So Jason, you are everywhere right now. The new movie is tracking to be huge. You've got the motorcycle line, you're climbing mountains. Do you ever sleep, or do you just power down like a machine?" The audience laughed. It was an easy opener, a softball. Jason smiled, but it was a slow, sleepy expression. "I sleep when I can, man. When the babies are asleep, I sleep. Otherwise, you gotta keep moving. Sharks die if they stop swimming, right?" "Right, exactly," Andy clapped his hands. "And speaking of sharks, we have to talk about the water. You've spent half your career wet. Do you even own a blow dryer at this point?" Jason chuckled, a low, resonant sound. "Wind-dried, bro. Keep it natural." "Love it. I love it." Andy turned to the camera. "Now, Jason, we have a tradition here in the clubhouse. We don't just talk, we drink. You're a Guinness guy, right?" "Usually," Jason said, nodding. "Well, tonight, in honor of the new movie, we made you something special. We're calling it the Tidal Wave." Andy signaled the bartender, a shirtless model wearing a sailor hat who stood in the corner. "Deacon, send him over." The bartender brought over a tray with 2 neon blue shots that smoked slightly from dry ice. Jason eyed the drink. He didn't look excited. He looked like a man inspecting a suspicious engine part. "It's got tequila, blue curacao, and a little bit of spice," Andy promised, picking his up. "Mazel." Jason picked up the tiny glass. In his hand, it looked like a thimble. He didn't toast. He just tipped it back and swallowed it in one motion, his face betraying absolutely nothing. "Whoa!" Andy coughed after downing his, fanning his face. "That has a kick. What do you think?" Jason set the glass down gently. "Sweet," he said. "Sweet?" Andy laughed incredulously. "That's pure agave, my friend. You really are built different." "It's juice, Andy," Jason said. His tone was light, but his eyes were scanning the room, checking the exits, checking the lights. It was a subtle thing, the hypervigilance of a man used to being watched. But in the small studio, it felt amplified. "All right, well, the juice is flowing," Andy said, recovering quickly. "Let's get into it. You've been named the sexiest man alive, the toughest man in Hollywood. Does the title ever get heavy? Do you ever wake up and just want to be, I don't know, a accountant?" "I can't do math," Jason deadpanned. The audience giggled. "But seriously," Andy pressed, crossing his legs and resting his chin on his hand. "The physical demand, the shirtlessness, is there a part of you that worries people are looking at the abs and not the acting?" It was a standard question for a heartthrob, the kind meant to elicit a humble brag. Jason shifted. The leather of his vest creaked. He looked at Andy, and for a second, the festive lights of the studio seemed to reflect flatly in his dark eyes. "It's part of the gig," Jason said. "I'm a storyteller. If the story requires the shirt off, the shirt comes off. If it requires a suit, I wear a suit. I don't write the scripts, Andy, I just bring the manna." "But you pick the scripts," Andy countered playfully, "and you pick a lot of ones where you're beating people up." "I pick stories about protection," Jason corrected him. The volume of his voice dropped a decibel, becoming more serious. "About family, protecting what's yours. That's what resonates with me. The fighting, that's just choreography. The heart is the protection." "Protection," Andy repeated, sensing a thread. "You're a big family guy, everyone knows that. You're very protective of your kids. Is it hard to turn off the warrior mode when you go home? Do you find yourself trying to body slam the mailman?" The hoodians laughed again, anticipating a joke. Jason didn't laugh. He slowly rubbed his bearded chin. "No, I don't body slam the mailman." There was a beat of silence, a pause that went on just a second too long to be comfortable. "Right," Andy said, the smile faltering for a microsecond before reattaching itself. "Metaphorically speaking, I mean, you're a big guy. You're imposing. Do you feel like you have to shrink yourself down to fit into the civilian world?" "I don't shrink," Jason said. He leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, invading Andy's personal space simply by existing. "I just exist. If people get intimidated, that's on them. I'm just walking, man." Okay, Andy said, leaning back into his chair. "Fair enough, you're just walking." The energy in the room had shifted. It wasn't bad, not yet, but it was heavy. Usually guests on WWHL were eager to please, desperate to be the funniest person in the room. Jason Momoa wasn't trying to be funny. He wasn't trying to be anything other than exactly who he was, and that authenticity was clashing with the plastic, high-sugar vibe of the set. "Let's play a game," Andy announced, his voice going up an octave to compensate. "We love games here. This one is called Momoa or No Moa." Graphics flashed on the screen behind them. Silly pictures of Jason's face superimposed on various bodies. "Here's how it works," Andy explained. "I'm going to read a scenario, and you tell me if it's something you'd do, Momoa, or something you'd never do, No Moa. Got it?" "Hit me," Jason said. He didn't look at the screen. He kept his eyes on Andy. "Okay, scenario 1, you're at a karaoke bar. The song It's Raining Men comes on. Do you get on stage, Momoa or No Moa?" "No Moa," Jason said instantly. "What? Really?" Andy feigned shock. "I feel like you'd kill that song." "You've got the falsetto." "Not my jam," Jason said. He picked up the blue drink. looked at it, and put it back down without sipping. Okay, tough crowd, Andy laughed nervously. Next one, a romantic comedy. You, Jennifer Aniston, a bakery in Paris. You're a pastry chef who hates gluten. Momoa or no Moa? Jason stared at Andy. The audience tittered, waiting for the punchline. Is the script good? Jason asked. It's a hypothetical bad rom-com, Jason. It's supposed to be silly. If the script is good, I'll do it, Jason said seriously. I like to bake. You like to bake? Andy latched onto the detail. What do you bake? Cookies? Sourdough? Bread, Jason said. Kneading the dough, it's good for the hands. He flexed his fingers, showing the calluses and the scars. Takes patience. I bet you knead that dough into submission, Andy quipped. I bet that dough is terrified. Jason didn't smile. He just looked at his hands. Dough doesn't get scared, Andy. It just rises. The audience was quiet now. They weren't sure if this was a bit. Jason was deadpan, but there was a weight to it that felt less like comedy and more like exhaustion. Right, Andy said. Last one, you're at a party. Someone challenges you to arm wrestle. But it's like an 80-year-old grandmother. Momoa or no Moa? I don't arm wrestle, Jason said. Ever? No, sister. Come on, Andy prodded, smiling mischievously. You're telling me if I challenged you right now, you wouldn't take me down? I don't have anything to prove, Andy, Jason said. His voice was soft, but it carried to the back of the room. I know what I can do. I don't need to show it off for a party trick. It's just for fun, sweetie, Andy said, using his disarming, affectionate tone. We're just having fun. I am having fun, Jason said. He sat perfectly still. Are you? I'm having a blast, Andy squeaked. We'll be right back with more Jason Momoa after this. The camera lights went red, signaling the commercial break. The band played a sting. As soon as the on-air sign dimmed, the atmosphere in the room curdled. Andy dropped the smile instantly, spinning to his producer, who was crouching by the camera. He's giving me nothing, Andy hissed, covering his mic. He's literal. He's taking everything literally. Try the fan questions, the producer whispered back, looking anxious. Get him talking about the fans. He loves the fans. He hates the games, Andy muttered. He glanced over at Jason. Jason hadn't moved. He hadn't pulled out a phone. He hadn't asked for water. He was just sitting there, staring at the bedazzled shot ski on the wall with an expression of profound, melancholic boredom. He looked like a monolith stranded in a candy store. Andy took a breath, adjusted his suit jacket, and plastered the smile back on. Jason, you doing okay? Need water? A beer? Jason turned his head slowly. I'm good, brother. Just chilling. Great energy. We're going to do some viewer questions next. Just loose, honest answers. Keep it spicy if you can. Spicy, Jason repeated. Got it. And back in 5, 4, 3, the lights blazed up. The audience clapped, but the sound was thinner this time. They could feel it too, the disconnect. Welcome back to Watch What Happens Live, Andy announced. I'm here with the legendary Jason Momoa. Now, Jason, we have a lot of people on the line who are dying to talk to you. Let's go to the phones. We have Sarah from Ohio. Sarah, you're on with Jason. A staticky voice filled the studio. Hi, Andy. Hi, Jason. Oh my God. Aloha, Sarah, Jason said. His face softened instantly. For the fans, he had time. He leaned toward the camera, making the connection intimate. My question is, Sarah stammered, I saw a picture of you on Instagram painting. I didn't know you were an artist. Does your art help you deal with the stress of Hollywood? Beautiful question, Jason said, ignoring Andy entirely. Yeah, Sarah, painting it's where I go to be quiet. Hollywood is loud. There's a lot of noise, a lot of people telling you who you are. The canvas doesn't talk back. It just takes the color. It saves me, honestly. It was a vulnerable, thoughtful answer. It was the kind of answer that usually stops a room. Andy jumped in immediately. And do you paint shirtless? Because I feel like that would sell more paintings. The audience gave a polite, awkward chuckle. Jason turned back to Andy. The softness that had been there for Sarah vanished. The steel doors slammed shut again. I paint in whatever I'm wearing, Jason said. I'm just saying, Andy pushed, leaning in with a conspiratorial grin. The Jason Momoa art experience. You, a canvas, and a loincloth. That's a billion-dollar idea, honey. Jason didn't blink. Is that all you see? The question hung in the air, naked and uncomfortable. What? Andy blinked. The loincloth, Jason said. Is that the whole joke? I'm talking about my soul, about what saves me, and you're talking about a costume. I'm teasing, Andy said, raising his hands in a surrender gesture. It's a compliment. You're a beautiful man, Jason. We celebrate that here. Celebrating it feels a lot like selling it sometimes, Jason murmured. Well, look, Andy said, his voice tightening just a fraction. He was a professional, and he didn't like being called out on his own show. We are a visual medium. People tune in to see the stars. You can't blame them for looking. I don't blame them, Jason said. I get tired of the reduction. You know, it's reduction sauce. You boil it down until it's just one flavor. Meat. Meat, Andy repeated. Okay, well, let's try to find some other flavors. Let's go to the next caller. We have Mike from Florida. Mike? Hey, Jason, a male voice boomed. Big fan of the action stuff. My question is, you're getting a little older now. You're in your 40s. Do you worry that you're going to age out of the tough guy roles? Like, what's the plan when the knees give out? It was a rude question, the kind that usually gets screened out, or perhaps the kind Andy Cohen's producers let through specifically to spark a reaction. Jason took a long, slow breath. His chest expanded, stretching the fabric of his vest. He looked down at his boots, then up at the camera. The knees are already gone, Mike, Jason said, a dry, humorless smile touching his lips. Shoulders too. That's the price you pay with your body. But do you worry about the expiration date? Andy pressed, piggybacking on the caller. Hollywood is brutal to women, but it's interesting for men like you. The beasts. If you can't throw the car anymore, do they still call? I don't know, Jason said quietly. Maybe they don't. Maybe that would be okay. Really? Andy asked. You'd be okay fading away? No more premieres? No more red carpets? I'd be on a mountain, Jason said, with my kids. Painting. I think I'd be fine, Andy. I think I'd be better than fine. But you love the adulation, Andy insisted. I saw you at the premiere. You were roaring. You were climbing the barricades. You feed on it. I feed the fans, Jason corrected him sharply. There's a difference. I give them the energy they came for. It's a transaction. I give them the show, they give me the love. But it's not who I am when the lights go down. So it's an act? Andy asked. The wild man, the savage, it's all just drag? Jason looked at Andy with an expression that was hard to read. It was a mix of pity and irritation. We're all in drag, Andy. Look at this suit. Look at this set. It's all a costume. I like my suit, Andy said defensively, straightening his tie. It's a nice suit, Jason allowed, but it's armor, just like the leather is mine. The problem is when people think the armor is the man. Okay, getting deep in the clubhouse, Andy chirped, trying to break the tension with forced brightness. We love a philosophical moment, but let's pivot. Let's talk about something a little juicier. Andy picked up a new card. He looked at it, paused, and then looked at Jason. This was the pivot point. The point where the interview went from awkward to dangerous. There were some photos that came out last week, Andy began, his voice dropping to a sympathetic news anchor register. Paparazzi shots. You were outside a bar in London. You looked upset. There was some speculation that you were crying. Jason's body went rigid. The casual sprawl vanished. He sat up, his shoulders squaring. The air in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. I'm human, Andy, Jason said. His voice was very low now, a rumble of warning. Of course, Andy said soothingly, but the internet went wild. They aren't used to seeing Khal Drogo cry. People were saying you looked broken. Was there something going on? Trouble in paradise? Or was it just a bad night? I don't talk about my private life, Jason said. You know that. I know, Andy said. But you're a public figure. When you cry on a public street, It becomes a public conversation. I'm just giving you a chance to clear the air, to control the narrative. I don't need to control it, Jason said. I need you to respect it. But what were you feeling in that moment? Andy pushed gently. Was it the pressure, the industry? Jason stared at him. The silence stretched out. 5 seconds, 10 seconds. The audience started to shift in their seats, the plastic cups crinkling in nervous hands. The festive "Watch What Happens Live" logo pulsed on the screen behind them, mocking the gravity of the moment. I was feeling, Jason said, his voice tight, like I wanted to have a drink alone without putting a lens in my face. But that's the life you chose, Andy countered. It was a reflex for him, the defense of the celebrity ecosystem. You signed up for the lens. I signed up to act, Jason snapped. It was the first time he had raised his voice. It wasn't a shout, but the force of it hit Andy like a physical blow. I didn't sign up to be hunted, and I didn't sign up to have a host dissect my lowest moment for entertainment while surrounded by stuffed sharks and glitter. It's not entertainment, it's empathy, Andy argued, though his smile had completely vanished. We're trying to understand the man behind the muscles. No, Jason said. He shook his head slowly. You're not. You're trying to get a clip. You want the Jason Momoa breaks down viral moment. I see the cards, Andy. I see the producer in your ear. Andy stiffened. I run this show, Jason. I ask the questions I think the audience wants to hear. The audience wants to know if I'm happy, Jason said, gesturing to the silent crowd. They don't want to pick at a scab. That's you. That's the industry. Okay, Andy said, his voice turning cold and professional. If you don't want to answer the question, we can move on. But don't insult the show. I'm not insulting the show, Jason said. He leaned back, crossing his massive arms. I'm telling you that you're crossing a line. You're asking me to perform my pain for you, and I'm not doing it. We're not asking for a performance, Andy said, frustration leaking into his tone. We're asking for vulnerability. You say you hate the tough guy image, but the second I ask you to show something soft, you wall up. You put the armor back on. Isn't that a contradiction? Vulnerability is something you give to people you trust, Jason said. He looked Andy dead in the eye. I don't trust this room. The statement hung there. It was a devastating indictment. The clubhouse, built on the illusion of friendship and intimacy, had just been called a lie to its face. Andy's jaw tightened. He looked at his cards. He had a game plan next. Spill the tea. It involved gossip and silly hats. He realized with a sinking feeling that there was absolutely no way they were playing that game. You don't trust the room, Andy repeated. Wow, okay, that's honest. I appreciate the honesty. It is what it is, Jason said. He looked at the door. We have one more segment, Andy said, trying to salvage the wreck. It's a fan favorite. It's called Plead the Fifth. I asked 3 questions. You can only refuse to answer 1. It's supposed to be fun. I think we're done with fun, Andy, Jason said. Let's just try it, Andy insisted. He needed to regain control. He needed to finish the segment. Question 1. You've worked with a lot of leading ladies. Who was the most difficult to work with? Jason didn't even blink. Pass. You can't pass on the first one. Andy tried to laugh, but it sounded shrill. You have to save the pass. I don't have to do anything, Jason said. Okay, Andy said, flipping the card quickly. Question 2. How much was your biggest paycheck for a movie where you had less than 10 lines of dialogue? Pass, Jason said. You can't pass twice, Jason. That's the rule. Your rules, Jason said, not mine. Andy felt the heat rising in his neck. This was a disaster. The guest was stonewalling him, dismantling the format of the show in real time. All right, Andy said, dropping the cards onto the table. You know what? Let's skip the game. Let's just talk. You seem angry, Jason. You seem like you came in here ready to fight. I came in here ready to talk about a movie, Jason said. You made it about everything else. Everything else is who you are, Andy exclaimed. You are the package, the life, the look, the rumors, the art. You can't separate them. I can, Jason said. I do every day. When I go home, I take the boots off, I take the rings off, I'm just Papa. But you want the show to never end. You want me to be the character right here in the chair. I want you to be entertaining, Andy snapped. The mask slipped. This is a television show. People are watching. They want to be entertained. They don't want a lecture on privacy from a movie star. Then hire a clown, Jason said softly. The audience gasped. A sharp, collective intake of breath. Andy stared at Jason. His face was flushed. The playful banter was dead and buried. This was an ego clash, pure and simple. I didn't hire a clown, Andy said, his voice shaking slightly with adrenaline. I booked a professional. And frankly, Jason, you're not acting like one. Jason sat up very slowly. The movement was menacing in its deliberation. He placed his large hands on the armrests of the small chair. I'm being professional by staying in this chair, Jason said. If I was being me, if I was being the guy you think I am, I would have walked through that wall 10 minutes ago. Is that a threat? Andy asked. No, Jason said. It's a fact. I'm giving you the courtesy of your time, but my time is running out. Well, Andy said, checking the clock on the monitor. We have 3 minutes left. What do you want to do with them? Sit here in silence? Glare at me? I'm comfortable with silence, Jason said. He leaned back, relaxed, unbothered. Silence is truth, the rest is just noise. This is a talk show, Andy said, exasperated. Silence is death. Maybe for you, Jason said. Andy looked at the camera. He looked at the audience, who were watching with wide, terrified eyes. He looked at Jason, the immovable object. He made a decision. Andy Cohen was a producer first, a host second. He knew when a segment was dead. He knew when a guest was lost. And he knew that the only thing worse than a fight was a boring, protracted stalemate. He gathered his cards together and tapped them on the table. A sharp, final sound. You know what, Jason? Andy said, his voice surprisingly calm. You're right. About what? Jason asked. Silence is truth, and the truth is this isn't working. Andy stood up. He smoothed his suit jacket. You don't want to be here. You don't want to play the game. You don't want to answer the questions, and that's your right, but it's my show. Jason looked up at him. For the first time, there was a flicker of surprise in his eyes. So, Andy continued, looking directly into the camera, I think we're going to call it a night a little early. Jason, thank you for stopping by. I'm sorry we couldn't find the vibe. It was a dismissal, polite, professional, and brutal. Jason smiled. It was a genuine smile this time, one that reached his eyes. He stood up, unfolding his massive frame, towering over Andy once again. No worries, brother, Jason said. He didn't offer a handshake. He just nodded. Aloha. Aloha, Andy said tightly. Jason turned and walked off the set. He didn't wave to the audience. He didn't look at the band. He just walked toward the exit with that same heavy, predatory grace, disappearing into the shadows of the studio wings. The stage felt suddenly empty. The chair sat vacant, looking small and flimsy. Andy stood alone in the center of his rainbow-colored kingdom. The audience was dead silent. No one knew if they should clap. The band didn't play. Andy looked at the empty chair, then at the camera. He didn't apologize. He didn't explain. He just let the moment hang there, the tension vibrating in the silence. We'll be right back, Andy said softly. The screen cut to black. The Watch What Happens Live logo appeared, spinning cheerfully, but in the studio, nobody moved. The party was over. The lights were still bright, the drinks were still blue, but the air had been sucked out of the room, leaving nothing but the hum of the air conditioner and the uncomfortable weight of a boundary finally irrevocably drawn.